I still have it.
Oh, no, don't do that.
miss
We're
the
early.
Huh?
Guess we're on. I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's City Board of Directors meeting. Please rise for the invocation by Zach Davis, and I'll lead the Pledge of Allegiance.
It's an honor. Thank you. Dear God, thank you so much for this city. Thank you that I get to be a part of it. God, I just ask that all the issues that are on the table today, please have your will be done, things that will better our city for you and for the love of your son. God, just pray for these leaders that they will make good decisions, and you bless their minds, their lives at home, and everybody behind me. Please take care of us as we try to live for you and to share your love in this city. Thank you so much. It's in Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Please join me for the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'll call this meeting to order and ask Mr. Spicer to call the roll.
Davidson.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Clark.
Here.
Weatherford. Here. Garcia.
Here.
Foley.
Here.
McCabe.
Here. At this time, we'll consider approval of the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda or items that need to be moved from consent agenda to new business?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the agenda as presented.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. All in favor of the agenda as written, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda is approved. This time we'll consider approval of the minutes. We have two sets of minutes, the first being a special meeting held on March 12th and the second being the regularly scheduled meeting of March 19th. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
A motion and a second to approve. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Recognition of guests. We have Ms. Dorothy Brennan, Area Agents on Aging, representing a number of nonprofits in its National Service Day recognition. And Dorothy, you feel free to come to the podium with your group. And I'll read the proclamation. Whereas service to others is a hallmark of the American character and central to how we meet our challenges, and whereas the nation's mayors are increasingly turning to national service and volunteerism as a cost-effective strategy to meet city needs, and whereas participants address the most pressing challenges facing our cities and nation, from educating students for jobs of the 21st century to fighting the opioid epidemic, to responding to natural disasters, to supporting veterans and military families. Whereas national service expands economic opportunity by creating more sustainable, resilient communities and providing education, career skills, leadership abilities for those who serve. And whereas national service participants demonstrate commitment, dedication, patriotism by making an intensive commitment to service, a commitment that remains with them in their future endeavors. And whereas the Corporation for National and Community Service shares a priority with mayors nationwide to engage citizens, improve lives, and strengthen communities, and is joining with the National League of Cities, City of Service, and mayors across the country to recognize the impact of service on the Mayor's Day of Recognition for National Service on April 2nd, 2019. Now, I therefore, Pat McKay, Mayor of the City of Hot Springs, on behalf of the Board of Directors, hereby proclaim April 2nd, 2019 is National Service Recognition Day in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and encourage residents to recognize the positive impact of national service in our city and thank those who serve and find ways to give back to their communities. And witness wherever I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Hot Springs to be affixed on the second day of April in the year of our Lord 2019.
Well, we thank you, all of you, for recognizing us on this day. It's formerly known as Mayor's Day. We're trying to broaden that to include it's National Service Recognition Day.
Yes.
So again, I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a second proclamation that I asked Director Carol Weatherford, because he's in the construction field, and we know that springtime's here, and we like to go out in our yard, and we like to do digging, and we have home projects, and every once in a while we dig where we shouldn't and cause problems for not only ourselves but for our neighbors. So I asked Director Weatherford to read the proclamation, please.
Okay. Whereas each year Hot Springs, Arkansas underground utility infrastructure is jeopardized by unintentional damage due to failure to call 811, the national call number to have underground lines located prior to digging, and whereas undesired consequences such as service interruption, damage to the environment, personal injury, and even death as the potential results, and whereas calling 811 provides professional excavators and homeowners a simple way to reach the Arkansas Excavation Notification System to request utility line locations at the intended dig site. And whereas the Damage Prevention Alliance serves the citizens of Hot Springs at no cost to taxpayers, spreading the message that safe digging is shared responsibility, and encourages Hot Springs residents to always call 811 before digging. And whereas making a simple call to 811 in advance of digging projects, waiting a required amount of time, respecting the marked lines by maintaining visual definition throughout the course of the excavation, and digging with care around the marks will save time and money. Now, therefore, I, Pat McKay, Mayor of the City of Hot Springs, on behalf of the Board of Directors, do hereby proclaim April 2019 as Safe Digging Month.
So please adhere and be safe. You don't want to get shocked, and you don't want to have a gusher of water coming up and having
sewer.
problems for your or sewer. Yeah, you got a good one there. So thank you very much. At the agenda meeting, I indicated that I was going to have a special guest here tonight, and everybody here is special, but I'd like to call upon an individual in the audience who was recognized recently in the 2019 Governor's Arts Award. Do we have somebody in the audience who is recognized by the governor for their work in the arts? Yes, come on down. Come on up. Mr. Anthony Tidwell from Hot Springs. You know, Hot Springs is getting recognized for a lot of things across the state, and we have a lot of good momentum, and sometimes you don't hear of everything that's going on. And this is one that might have been missed by many people here in town. And And Anthony Tidwell was recently recognized by Governor Hutchinson in the 2019 Governor's Arts Awards. And if you're not a Facebook friend of Anthony or the Cutwell Kids, you need to, because he's doing great work with our area youth in art. And I don't know exactly what you do. I mean, I see it. You got these walls, and all these kids are painting, and they're all at different heights because they're different ages, and they're all painting their little sections. But I ran into Anthony a couple years ago, and a person who's a philanthropist in town had made comment about Anthony and his work, and I said, Anthony, you just made big time. And he was recognized for his work, and we appreciate you. You're one of the good things happening here in our community, and one of the quiet and, so to speak, unsung. But you keep doing what you're doing, and we certainly do appreciate. So tell us a little bit about Cutwell Kids and how you got started in all this, and your background in art. And explain what Cutwell, where'd that come from?
Well, Cutwell is a nickname. My last name is Tidwell, and while I was I'm a barber. That's my 9 to 5. I'm a barber, but in barber school they noticed that I cut well.
Okay.
So call you cut well, and I always was an artist. One time I was a troubled youth, but the way I kept out of trouble, I would stay in my room and draw for hours, and I knew how that saved my life as a young adult, as a child, as a teenager, and even now, I know how art plays a positive part of keeping my mind on something constructive and positive, and not idle. And I can paint and draw now, even when I'm troubled. And I knew that if it worked for me, I knew it would work for someone else. So it was almost like it was something that I had to do for my community. As a barber, I see a lot of parents, a lot of kids, and the appreciation for arts, the visual arts, wasn't there. And it's hard to tell a parent that you can't make somebody appreciate something they don't know about.
That's right.
So it's hard for me to just come in and just start talking to them about it. I had to start instilling it in the child at an early age, and once they saw how the art played a major role in their development, they wouldn't even throw trash in front of our studio. So that's one of the major benefits of giving back to the community, or something that somebody gave to me. How art saved my life, and those kids, they pick up trash in front of the studio. But I get off track a little bit there, but every Saturday in the summertime for 6 years, I let kids come to our studio and paint for free. And I never charged a parent. And I knew like I said, I knew the benefits, how it helped me as a youth, and I wanted that same benefit to help other kids in the community. And it's working. Yes. I have kids who've been part of the program for 6 years, and like I say, they come to the studio and clean up. And they start recognizing the color codes, the blue, the flags, all the interior decorating in here. Those kids didn't have that. They don't have that appreciation for it if it's not instilled at a younger age. And instead of going to Walmart buying a poster to put on the wall, they thinking about buying original pieces of art, and that's helping a whole nother creative economy. That's Hot Springs really it's a great place for it that I didn't appreciate as a youth, but this is the best place in the state of Arkansas for the visual arts. And I was recognized for the Governor Arts Award. I don't want to get off track, but this year, the 6th year, we having the Birth of an Artist art show, August the 10th. And I would love for all y'all to make it. Buy a ticket. If you can't come, please purchase a ticket. And you can really see the effect of the program on the community when you see someone buy one of these kids' artwork off the wall, and their parents' eyes just like, wow. Instead of, it's giving them an alternative. It's giving them an alternative. Yeah. And I want to thank you for allowing me to speak. it's like a courtroom. I'm still kind of, I'm a little shy.
It's all good.
It's all good. Thank you, Mr. McCain.
No, I'm telling you, I think we have a lot of great things happening in town, and for you to be recognized by the governor for your work and within the art community, I think it's just wonderful. And we have a lot of different people doing their part in the performing arts and other forms of art, and for you to pick up and for 6-7 years doing this very quietly and to be recognized, that's just tremendous. So keep up the great work. Thank you very much. At this time, we'll hear from the city manager for the city manager's report.
Well, thank you, Mayor, members of the board. It's good to be back. As you know, I was off last week, and it's been like drinking from a fire hose as I came back, getting through a lot of the emails and some of the things. If you've ever taken a week off and came back, you know what it's like trying to get caught up. But enjoying it, making some great progress. Today was a great day, as well as yesterday evening. We had the Majestic site redevelopment input sessions held over at the convention center. It's when you see the amount of people that have positive input in a project like the Majestic, it makes you really feel good that you're able to work on some of those things. So we're excited. We had, I think, they told me 45 RSVPs for yesterday and 15 RSVPs for today, and we had over 120 people at both events. So there was a lot of interest in the Majestic site, which we knew there was, but the amount of input that we've received has been really tremendous. We had over 200 comments submitted online prior to Kansas State University and the University of Arkansas coming in. They were able to kind of sector those ideas into different type projects. And what we found last night as they went through some of those input sessions and had kind of a roundtable discussion and discussion groups, where a lot of the same things that we saw in the comments prior to them arriving were the same that they saw last night. Today was a little bit different as far as the seminar. They were recapping some of the scoring on those ideas from last night, as well as receiving additional input from those that were in the crowd today. We had a lot of questions, a lot of answers, and then at the end of the program, there were 2 or 3, maybe 4 developers and individuals that had presentations. Was it 5? Had 5 presentations of different ideas and different projects that they would like to see happen at those. As the board knows, we are working towards an RFP to let out for that particular site. For those that were or were not there today or last night, Kansas State University and the University of Arkansas will have a deliverable back to the city sometime between now and the end of this month, which will signify the ideas and the suggestions and input that we had from these sessions. Once we have those, we plan to have a work session with the board to present those to you and get additional guidance as we develop that RFP. As I told the group today, we are not committed to any one project, but we are committed to the process, and that started with that public input that we had over the last 2 days. So we're at the beginning of the process, not the end. Some of the questions and answers today, a lot we're trying to leapfrog over to what the final product was going to be, and we're just not there. But we will be. Our plan is to still be able to let an RFP sometime in May. 4 to 6 weeks out, we should receive those, and I think we'll get quite a few submittals. We plan on rate and ranking those and bringing those top submittals to the board in another work session, and potentially bringing those top 2 or 3 in for in-person presentations. So we're on track for the RFP for May, and hopefully a decision by sometime in September. Had a lot of great comments after it was over today. So I think we've had a really good public input, and as far as reaching out and getting those ideas, it's been tremendous. Spring Fling, we have one of the biggest events that we have in our solid waste department, and this is a very popular program. Spring Fling, which is the annual citywide cleanup, will be held April 27th and 28th. The City of Hot Springs Solid Waste Department places dumpsters at various locations around the city, allowing residents to dispose of unwanted items and debris at no cost. We ask that that citizens don't bring any hazardous components to those particular collection sites, things like paint, batteries, tires, or brush. There are other options for those particular items. They'll have a household hazardous waste coming up in a few months for those items. But I know that listening to our solid waste director, Randy Atkinson, he's already receiving phone calls of when that's going to be. So it is scheduled for April 27th and 28th of this month. Additional information on the location of those dumpsters will be forthcoming. Visit Hot Springs and our other partner agencies are sponsoring a monthly full moon rides series through December for beginners and intermediate bike riders. This is a chance for them to try riding those Northwood trails at night. All riders must have a mountain bike, helmet, front and rear lights, backup light source, and water for hydration. They've had a couple of these already. They've had a really good turnout and really enjoyable. And of course, on these particular rides, they're not on the what we would call the Black Diamond if we were skiing. They're on more of the green and blue trails, but a lot of fun out there in the evenings. Parks and Trails, that department is asking for volunteers to help keep the Greenway beautiful and can also get a free T-shirt. There's a Saturday cleanup on April the 6th from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. They have several locations and checkpoints, the Farmers Market Pavilion, the Rotary Centennial Trailhead at Hollywood Park, Utility Service Center at Adams and Seneca Streets. And besides T-shirts, we'll have trash bags, gloves, grabbers, water, everything will be available. But this is part of the Great Arkansas Cleanup and typically have a pretty good turnout. Really benefits the beauty of our Greenway Trail. Final couple of things, Mayor, is Trail Coordinator Ken Freeman now has a bridge in his name in the Northwoods Trails. Northwoods Trails Coordinator Tracy Berry and other mountain bikers recently honored him with the dedication of the Freeman Bridge for his ongoing dedication to the development of the Northwoods, along with the work he does at all of our parks and all of the trails. Ken has been very instrumental, whether that's our bike lanes and road shares. He's trails within the parks themselves, Energy Park. He's done a lot over the years, and it's really nice to see him recognized with the Freeman Bridge. And finally, after 29 years, Terry Payne, our public information director, will be leaving us. She has some great new adventures in store for her. I'm not going to say what those are, but she's very excited for the next chapter in her life. She has done a tremendous job for the City of Hot Springs, and she has worked with so many groups and agencies and others outside of our city family. We're going to have a celebration of Terry's retirement from 1 to 3 Friday, April the 12th here in the board chambers. We're asking anyone that would like to drop in during those times to please come by, say hello and best wishes for Terry. But she's been very instrumental and has really taken on the challenge of getting that department ready for this transition, and we really appreciate that. She's a top employee, a top person, and just an overall beautiful person to be around. So we wish her the best, and again, 1 to 3 on Friday, April the 12th, as we celebrate Terry Payne's retirement with the City of Hot Springs. So thank you, Mayor.
Very good. Thank you. This time we'll call on the directors for announcements of upcoming events. Director Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to invite you and the public to a public meeting that I'll be hosting on April 15th. And I know you think of income tax on the 15th, but that'll all be over because at 4:30 we have a public meeting at the center at Forest Lakes at 305 Forest Lakes Boulevard, and Officer Joey Williams with the Hot Springs Police Department will be the speaker. And if your neighborhood has a neighborhood watch and you want to come and share, if you want to form a neighborhood watch, come and get the updates about Neighborhood Watch, other statistics in Hot Springs, and come and share refreshments with us also. Thank you.
Very good. Other announcements?
I have one, Mayor. It's not correct, but it's part of what it is. Phoebe, with the Uzuri project, is having a tea for tots or something, and it's coming up at the end of the month. And I will give you further announcements about it. It's going to be held at Arlington. The tickets are $20 because I purchased one. And anybody else that wants to purchase one, I know how to get them. Thank you, Mayor.
So you can give more detail on the 16th of April, or will the event already have occurred?
No, it won't be over by then. I think
Okay.
it's the 20th.
Very good. In June of each year, we have the running of the tubs, and people sometimes will forget the purpose of that. That's Stuart Pennington. That was in recognition of Stuart Pennington, a longtime business man in downtown Hot Springs who was a great advocate for the downtown area. And I think it's always important for us to ensure that when we do a memorial event like this, that we always associate the individual's name with the event. And we got the Tom Daniels Chili Cook-Off. We got the Adam Brown Shamrock 5K. In fact, Zach Davis, who provided the invocation, was wearing this year's Adam Brown 5K T-shirt. So please always recognize that when we do these memorials, it's in recognition of someone else's efforts, and in this case, Stuart Pennington's running of the tubs, which will occur in June, and a lot of water is spilled on that day.
Yes.
But a great time for all. Anyone else with a?
Mayor,
Oh, yes, Director Jones.
I forgot about not mine. The park will soon be. If you have been through Pleasant Street, anybody in here or listening, you need to look that way because it'll soon be finished. Yes.
What Director Jones is referring to is a somewhat of a mini park
Donald Rice.
with a thank you, and a basketball court. And about 3 meetings ago, she challenged me to a one-on-one basketball game where she was going to back me down and elbow me and stuff it.
happen? I want to be there.
I told the guy at the Levi Hospital where I go for therapy, he said, well, the way you going, you never make it.
Talking about you or me?
He's talking about me.
All right. Moving on.
Okay.
Consent agenda. These tend to be of routine matters that don't really require discussion, so therefore I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Mayor, so moved.
Director Garcia made the motion.
Second.
Seconded by Director Jones. All in favor of the consent agenda as presented, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you. This time we'll move into new business. We have 5 items under new business. 3 of them are resolutions and 2 of them are 4 are resolutions and 1 is an ordinance. At this time we'll consider Resolution R 1954 and ask City Attorney to read by title.
Resolution R 1954, a resolution authorizing a ground lease agreement with the Historic Downtown Farmers Market, Inc. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
A motion by Director Clark, seconded by Director Garcia, and providing our staff report is the president of the Farmers Market is Meredith Finn.
Yes.
Come on, welcome.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit what you got going on this year.
Oh, gosh, that's a loaded question. How much time do we have? I was told I had to be brief so I wouldn't get gonged out of here. So we've got a lot going on at the market. We have our big opening of main season. Our big launch comes on May 4. We are currently wrapping down our winter market, which is still a market, but it doesn't have as much produce. We have a lot more craft, a lot more artists. We don't offer music in the winter. I'm hoping to change that. We're coming up when the main season opens. We'll go to Saturdays, it'll be 7 to noon, and then Tuesdays from 4 to 7. We'll have live music on Saturday mornings from 9 to noon. We're in the process of getting all that together, so if anybody out there can hear me and you're wanting to play at the market, please give us a call or send me an email at hsfarmersmarket@gmail.com.
Good.
Trying to think what else we've got coming up. We've changed a couple of things for this next main season. Youth Market is no longer the last Saturday of the month. As a parent, I think it's a discouraging thing to child to do something, to build something, to cook something, to bake something, to make something, and then have to sit on it for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So I want our youth to be more involved. In order for the market to move forward, we need to get the younger folks involved. And a way to do that is to extend our youth market. So anytime, and when I say youth, I mean someone under 18. Anytime a youth wants to set up at the market, they go online and fill out an application just like everybody else, and then they can set up any Saturday. During main season, we will charge our youth $2 to set up. I don't think that's a huge fee. Again, as a parent, I think the kids need to have a little skin in the game, because if they want to pursue something in business, they need to understand that there is money involved. So it's $2 for them to set up during main season. Now, during the winter season, it's free. If kids want to come out in the cold and sell stuff, let them have it. Lots of life lessons to be learned with that, and we won't charge for that. But during main season, we will. We have now made the market a non-smoking area. We received a lot of complaints. There's nothing worse than smelling all the wonderful fruits and vegetables and then getting hit with cigarette smoke. So after hearing a lot of complaints and getting some feedback, I decided that it was something that the market needed to do. So going forward, the market is now non-smoking. We now have a leash law that we are going to be enforcing. Dogs are always welcome at the market. In fact, we love dogs at the market. We just don't like them peeing on stuff. So we are now asking that dogs only on leashes are allowed at the market. Looking forward to that. We always get some real fun ones out there. I was trying to think if there's any other new stuff. Oh, I see my slides up. And by the way, thank you so much, Kathleen Faison, for putting the slideshow together for me. She did me a good job. I was trying to think if there's anything else we're going on. Oh, well, we've redone our bylaws. We've redone our rules and regulations. We're in the process of filing to get our 501c3. We are currently a C4. And had I known what I was getting into with this filing for a C3, I probably would have left it as the C4. But it is something that I believe will help move the market forward. We need a way to bring in donations, and that is the best way to do it. Also, I'm trying to get money. We need grant money, and the only way to get good grant money is by having a 501c3. Right. I am hopeful, Lord willing and the creek don't rise, I am hopeful that we can get some enclosures for the market, because as you know, those of you that have been there, it's a wide open pavilion, which is wonderful. However, during the winter market, during windy days, during rainy days, it's really uncomfortable down there. So I would like to see some kind of enclosure that we can at least buffer the wind and keep the rain out to make it a little more hospitable. I'm not saying warm it up so you're in shorts and T-shirts, but at least knock the chill off so that the vendors and the patrons can take their hands out of their pocket for a minute and conduct business. We're looking into doing radiant heaters as well, the ones that we could mount up on the beams, so that we can give the place a little bit of, knock the chill off. Again, I don't want to warm it up to 80 degrees, but if we can go from 30 degrees to step inside to 50, 55, hey, that's great. So that's big agenda, big plans. But we're in the process of getting the C3 so that we can then get the grant money so that we can then move forward. It's been a slower process than I thought it would be. I'm not going to lie. I was hoping this would have been wrapped up lickety-split, ready to go for main season. It didn't work that way. So it is still a work in progress.
Well, thank you very much. Anthony Whittington, come forward and, fill in the cracks.
Thank you, Meredith. All right, members of the board, good evening. My recommendation from staff is to approve the, based on 2018, that we can say that this market is definitely a success. It's something the city values. Citizens come up to me all the time and say how much they love the market. They love the fact that it's year-round. So I'm bringing to you tonight the renewal for the 2019 lease agreement. The City of Hot Springs has a rich history of providing its citizens with local, fresh, nutritious, affordable vegetables and fruit and local farm products. The historic downtown farmers market has been a sound track record in managing the city's farmers market program. And so tonight I bring you a recommendation to approve this contract.
Very good. Any questions of Anthony? Director Garcia?
Are there going to be any more food truck Fridays?
Well, I'll take that real quick. No.
No.
And the reason being, it's not just a short no. The Food Truck Fridays were managed by Elaine Nesmith and Clay Cook, who went above and beyond on a regular basis to do those Food Truck Fridays. I and the market are so grateful for the two of them for everything they did. They have decided to move on, and we don't have anybody else that can step in and take it over, unfortunately. And it's a lot of work. It's a full-time job for about a month leading up to it. And then on the flip side, the market, it's supposed to be a fundraiser, made a couple $100 after all it was said and done. And when we look at the amount of time and the amount of effort and then what we gain from it, it's just not really feasible for us. Now, if we can find somebody that wants to volunteer and do the Food Truck Fridays and manage them for us, oh yeah, we're right back on it. But I'm working with a really small board right now, and we just don't have the manpower. But believe me, I want them back. They're great, but right now we just can't.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions?
Anybody else have a question? Sorry, didn't mean to speak down.
What would help do you need the most?
Ooh, I'm looking for board members.
You're still trying to get
I am
board members?
looking for board members. We now have 6, I believe. We can have as many as 12. I need help. I need board members. I can delegate and delegate and delegate, but if I don't have anybody to delegate, it lands on my shoulders, and I'm fine. I can carry it, but I need help. I need board members.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Is that something that could be on our website to link to farmers market?
We have.
Yeah, Bill's been
Good.
beating that drum for me for a while.
I knew that it was announced here previously, but I didn't know they were still needing. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Did we have anybody from the public sign up?
No, sir.
No. No members of the public. Any discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Folly.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. This time we'll consider resolution number R 1955 and ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R 1955, a resolution awarding a contract to Christ Engineers, Inc. for certain professional engineering design services for task orders 20, 21, and 22 related to the Lake Ouachita water supply project. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
A motion
Second.
and a second by Director Weatherford. Mr. Pillar.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Board. This resolution is for 3 separate contracts to be awarded to Christ Engineers for the Lake Ouachita Water Supply Project. As Brian mentioned, they are in the form of task orders, task order 20, 21, and 22. And task order number 20 is for the new 15 million gallon a day water plant that will be built off of Amby Road. And that task order contract amount is the amount of $1,533,000. Task order number 21, which will be for the raw and finished water lines to and from that plant, that contract amount will be $2,043,000. And finally, task order number 22, which is for the intake structure on Lake Ouachita, will be for $1,687,000, totaling $5,263,000. These task orders are for 3 separate projects that we need to build simultaneously. And mind you that these task orders do not include any construction, no construction. They need to be built at the same time or concurrently so that we can meet the board's goals and priorities. Number one goal of putting a water plant down on Amity Road online in 2022. This is the biggest or the last, not the biggest, but the next big or last big portion to be encumbered in the 2018 water bond issue. And all the construction will require future water bonds to be issued. With that, I have invited Matt Dunn and Stuart Nolan with Christ Engineers to help me answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you. Any questions? Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
We do have one member of our community who is signed up to speak on this item. Mr. Bob Driggers, please come forward and restate your name and your address.
It's Bob Driggers, number 3 Stonegate. And although $6 million sounds like an exorbitant amount for the scope of work as presented, I don't think the public knows enough about the scope of work. And I think that it would be prudent to have a public hearing so the public would know before you vote to spend $6 million on this project. I will say that there are some obvious things that I personally find wrong with the project. When you take raw water lines and you transport Ouachita water across Lake Hamilton, does that make sense? What makes less sense than anything, though, is the fact that you're building a 20-mile raw water pipeline from Lake Ouachita, perhaps right across the true growth corridor of our city, down to the county line, south of town. That is not a growth corridor. And that's a ridiculous location for a water treatment plant. That's a location that benefits CAW, Central Arkansas Water, and MAWA. And it's a location that benefits you tying into Gray in the future. It's not beneficial to Hot Springs. It's way too expensive for Hot Springs. I would seriously encourage you to look at redesigning that to where the system benefits Hot Springs and Hot Springs True Growth Corridor. And I'm signed up for the next item, so I'll have a few comments about capacity, etc. But I would encourage you to put this off, have a public hearing. Let the public know what the scope of work is before you spend $6 million.
Thank you. That's the only individual that signed up to speak on this item. Any discussion amongst the directors? Hearing.
Did Matt or Mr. Nolan want to speak to any of that? But it was my understanding before we passed the bond issue, we had meetings about the whole water, what was going to be included that we were going to pay for in the water bonds.
Your master plan.
And the plan was adopted, and that we had public meetings, and all of that was included. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we're okay. Please call the roll.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. This time we'll consider resolution number R 1956 and ask city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R 1956, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute the DeGray Lake Water Storage Agreement with U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and approving certain amendments to the 2019 budget for the city of Hot Springs, Arkansas. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion.
So
if any.
moved. Motion to adopt. Director Jones, seconded by
Second.
Director Clark, and City Manager Bill Burrows will provide the staff overview.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an item that I'd say is a long time coming. As this board's aware, we purchased the rights to 20 million gallons a day from DeGray Lake in October of 2013. And we started working with the different stakeholders, all of the stakeholders that were involved in this particular water storage. We've had multiple meetings with all the stakeholders, as I've just stated, Corps of Engineers, Southwest Power Administration, Central Arkansas Water, and City of Hot Springs. And really, the crux of this particular agreement was not so much the storage, but was the foregone benefits that needed to be paid on that water once we signed the agreement. So DeGray's a little bit different than what we went through with Lake Ouachita. It did not have to have a reallocation study completed. It was water supply is an authorized use. However, that water supply was not out of the main pool. As we looked at that, what they call the regeneration pool, it really doesn't have a firm mean water supply because they have to take that down every 4 or 5 years for a month or so for basin cleaning. And as you know, water supply, we need that all the time, not just some of the time. So we started working with the Southwest Power Administration and the Corps of Engineers on how we would be able to withdraw water out of that main body. Initially, it appeared that we were going to have to pay foregone benefits if we signed this water storage agreement. And that's really where the major costs are. And for us, at that particular time, we thought DeGray was going to be our first water supply option. And we found that Lake Ouachita came before that. We continue to work on DeGray Lake. This is something they're not making any more of. And we continued to work on this particular agreement. However, we knew that we could never sign it as long as that foregone benefit was included in this agreement. So over the course of the past several years, negotiations with the Southwest Power Administration, we were able to come to an agreement that we would be able to withdraw the water, or we would be able to buy the storage for this water. City of Hot Springs will own it. It will be an asset of the city's. However, we will not pay foregone benefits until the point in time that we actually start using the water. We have to give a year's notice before that takes place. Right now, we think that's probably going to be somewhere around 15 years out, 15 to 20, depending on our growth. And I will say that the target growth rate that Christ Engineers had in their original study has factored to be true. Our water system is growing about 1% a year and has over the past several years. So we think that Lake Ouachita will take us out to that 15-year mark. At that time, we'll have 3 options. If we sign this agreement, we'll have DeGray Lake, we'll have the ability to withdraw more from Lake Ouachita, and we've solved the Tainer Gate issue that Entergy had, and it will allow us to potentially draw more water out of Lake Hamilton. So future generations will have additional options than we had as we went through this process. That sounds like something that you could just kind of come to an agreement with, but there is a lot of minutia that happens as you start dealing with the different agencies and especially when you get into that federal level. This is a right at a 6.5 year project. We're glad to present it to the board tonight. And again, the crux was that foregone benefits. And when coming to that agreement and SWAPA agreeing to the portions of the agreement where we won't have to pay until we withdraw, that was the key. And we finally got that approval from the Assistant Secretary of the Army just a couple of weeks ago. So we're very proud to present this to you tonight, Mayor, and I'll be glad to answer any questions on that.
I apologize for leaving the room for a second, but the only reason we went to DeGray, and correct me if I'm wrong, is we thought Ouachita was we were down and out on Ouachita.
That's true. I think if you look back, Ouachita took us about 13 years to finally secure that particular reallocation. Reallocations take a much longer period. This particular agreement took 7, foregoing even the reallocation process. So it's just a long process.
I signed the agreement on the Ouachita about 2 years ago.
It was May 2017.
And during the Corps of Engineers staff presentation in advance of the signing, they indicated that that project had been dead on several occasions, and which really resulted in us having to look to something else. And so DeGray, while that took 7 years, that was a result of some concerns with our ability to draw out of Ouachita. And so now we'll become really the envy of the world as it relates to our securing water supply for many, many years to come. So it wasn't that long ago someone made a comment about, in a meeting I was in, about what have you done to improve the community, your community going forward. And I'll say that this city board and the boards that went before you focused on the water issue. Of course, in Bill's dedicated leadership in this area, you know, our grandchildren will look back and say, how did we get all this? You know, and to the degree that anybody will remember, it's 13 years ago and it's 7 years ago that those boards and all the boards that came following,
Yes.
leading to 2 years ago in May, leading to tomorrow, you know, secured water for the greater Hot Springs community. And all those boards and the city staff that worked on it, many city staff have come and gone, but thank you very much for your perseverance in what historically has been something that was never done before.
True.
Especially on the DeGray.
Yes, sir.
So let's see, we have some members of the audience who wish to speak on this matter. Mr. Driggers.
So he can tell you how crazy you are.
I'm still at the same address.
You didn't move?
Not yet. But I would like, if you would indulge me, take out your pen and paper, your calculator, and add up some numbers. Capacity. What you're calling is sufficient water, I'm calling overkill. We have listed on your city website a current capacity of 27 million gallons a day. I think that's 21 at your Ouachita plant, which is actually on Hamilton, and 6 million at the Lakeside plant. So put that number down, 27. Now let's add Ouachita to it. That's another 20. It brings you up to 47 million gallons a day. Add DeGray to it, another 20. Doesn't that bring you to 67 million a day? Now the 10 million gallons a day that you already have under contract on 90-day rolling average at the current location would bring you to 77 million. And so you properly address the fact that Entergy said once the Tainer Gate issue is resolved, which it now would be, they will give you more, but not even calculating that. That's 77 million gallons a day that Hot Springs has access to, right? Is that the numbers you came up with? 77 million gallons. Now, I once was in charge of engineering operations and planning for a system larger than Little Rock's. And I called that system and checked to see what their current capacity is. They've got 3 plants. Their capacity is 47 million for 200,000 people. 47 million gallons. And Hot Springs has got 77 million. Wouldn't you not call that overkill? You know, your engineer back here, Mr. Nolan, we have him on tape saying that if we get these 3 water supplies before you got the extra 8 out of Ouachita, this city is set for 150 to 200 years. Remember that? It was a joint county-city meeting. Who plans for 200 years out? And now you're probably going to have enough for 300 years out. I doubt those people in 300 years are going to be thinking this particular board. They're not going to remember you folks.
Well, thank you.
Bottom line is, reconsider this. You do not need DeGray.
Thank you. This time I'll call on Mr. Jim Miles. Mr. Miles, please come forward. Restate your name and your address, please.
My name is Jim Miles, and I live at 111 Gray Circle here in the city. I did attend a meeting earlier this evening, and it enlightened me to a lot of which Mr. Drigger has just pointed out. And I'd like to know why the public is not being offered the opportunity. You're fixing to spend millions of dollars of our taxpayers' money, and this city isn't going to grow. In my opinion, this city is not going to grow to the point that it's going to be able to pay for that. You got the money? Now, you're going to have to get it from somewhere. So you're going to have to sell bonds. So you're going to have to get it from the people to back in bonds. So y'all going to be raising our rates to where we can't stand it. You got somewhat of a retirement community, and now we're going another direction. I moved here from Texas because of what Hot Springs truly was, and now it's changed directions. And you all know what I'm talking about. It's not on the agenda, but it is the casinos. I'm not against casinos. I just don't partake. But my point is I think the public should be brought aware of this and why you're not presenting these figures of gallons per day. Why are you not presenting this to the public and letting them make their own minds? They're not stupid. They're the ones you depend on for your money. You don't depend on stupid people for that. And I guess my question would be too, why do you need the gray when you've got your Ouachita for many years to come? And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome.
Our final speaker that is signed up is Mr. Lloyd Hoffman. Mr. Hoffman, please come forward. Restate your name and your address, please.
Lloyd Hoffman, 107 Gray Circle, Hot Springs. I agree with everything that Mr. Driggers had to say and Mr. Miles. And I, too, I'm a lifelong resident, and I believe that if the water rates keep going up, that it's going to be unsustainable for the average person out here. It's just ridiculous about the water rates. And I do believe also that we do need a public hearing. This is not satisfactory to keep going in the way we are right now. We just can't keep going like this. And there's an awful lot of small people out there, thousands. I'm speaking, I'm sure, for thousands of people. And as you go along with your agenda, I hope y'all will think about how you're hurting so many people out there with exorbitant water rates and water and sewer and sanitation rates. It's just more than we can bear. And so I hope that your conscience will tell you to please do everything you can to correct this situation. And I do think we ought to have a public hearing so that people can discuss it before we go any further. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Those are the three individuals that signed up to speak on this issue. Is there any discussion amongst directors? Director Foley.
I would like to address a few of the comments that were made. One is water rates. For the public's information, I'd like them to know that at least before the last rate increase, I don't know what it is after the rate increase, I think it's under 10%, but we were in the bottom 4th percentile of the entire state in water rates, which means that 96% of the population in other areas was paying more than Hot Springs, Arkansas. Our sewer rates are high. I shouldn't say they're high, they're at the average, just slightly above the average. We passed an ordinance to raise rates, I think it was $3 a month last year.
Yes, sir. It's $8 over a 4-year period. And with the end of those rates, Director Foley, we'll still be in the lower, it was around the 8th percentile. So we're still under the 10th percentile of the entire state with those increases that will fund these projects.
And that's to build a treatment plant that will be able to handle what we're now trying to handle.
Correct.
I mean, we can't expand anywhere anymore without the new treatment plant. We can't expand any water. I mean, it doesn't matter how much water we have if we don't fix our treatment plant, and that was what the last rate increase was. I'm in favor of getting all the water we can. It's a commodity that's not going to be more plentiful. I mean, we know that the Gray has already had proposals from Texas to take the water. And so I'm absolutely supportive of this resolution.
Director Garcia, you had your hand up.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. And I just wanted to reiterate that this is a plan that was already adopted. Our master water plan was adopted previously, and there were public meetings beforehand. There was a lot of work that went into preparation, a lot of input, and besides public meetings here, there was one in my district, and took all of that feedback in, and everything was transparent as far as I understand, that there were no secret agreements with anyone else. It was all about our community and the service area that Hot Springs Water services. So to indicate otherwise, I just want to clarify that this has been made public as much before the vote. The master plan was adopted. The previous was awarding the contract to do the work. The work was already approved. The bonds were already approved. This is awarding the contract that has to come before the board for approval. So nothing in that process has changed, but the approval and input all occurred in a prior year. Right?
That's correct. Thank you.
Well, I just want to make sure the public understands that. This is nothing new that's trying to be, there's nothing trying to be pulled over anyone's secretly. It's all.
Director Garcia, I mean, you're exactly right with respect to this contract itself, but the whole water issue has been a topic of public debate since 2004. Mm-hmm. To Mr. Burr's credit, I don't know how many colonels you've gone through at the U.S. Department of Army, but you've gone through a few city managers too, and now you are the city manager. I want to say my thank yous to this board and the boards prior to you that have continued to support staff's efforts to try to secure water. Access to water is different than water capacity. What we treat is what we treat, but water is, they're not, like Mr. Burr said, God's not making any more, okay? We've got what we've got, and we need to try to obtain our water rights so that we can secure that for the future. That doesn't mean that we're going to build plants all over the county to treat this water. It's just the access to the water. If we don't do it, someone else will, and that's a foregone benefit that we will lose.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I want to kind of add to that, as Mr. Albright indicated, and Mr. Burrows and Director Garcia and Director Filey, we're securing this for our future, not necessarily for today. When they say, well, your population, doesn't demand it. Well, I don't know what my population of this community is going to be in 20 years. I can certainly tell you that we have people in this community working diligently on economic development. And I've talked to these individuals in the past, and I said, why don't you go out and find an entity that has a need for high volume of water, because we're going to be in a position to service them when other parts of the country will be deficient in that commodity. And so we'll have the water, we'll be the economic envy of many communities, and those in concerns that require water we'll be looking to Hot Springs. And, those individuals say, we need to have it secured, Pat, before I can go ahead and do that. Well, we're providing for that and the ability to bring that online. Companies don't relocate overnight, but, with some planning and communication, we'll be able to have those two lines intersect at an appropriate date and time in the future. So, we're all about providing for the here and now. We're also here trying to provide for our future. And the future just isn't, when we talk about population growth, where does population growth come from? It doesn't come from a community that's dying. It doesn't come from a community that's stagnant. It comes from a community that's vibrant and growing and is attractive. We have a lot of great assets here in this community. And we talk about quality of place. Well, quality of place is great. We have a lot of different things going on. If you don't have water, your quality of place really isn't worth all that much. And while we have it for our present population to some degree, we can argue on that on a series of 30 days of record high temperatures when there's no rainfall. You remove that from the equation. We really have a need for water in order for our economic vitality of this community. And so I'm very supportive of this. And again, while I encourage and welcome different points of view, I think history will show that this decision we've been making, and as Director Garcia said, these decisions were really made years ago. We're just implementing some facets of those decisions at this time, and so I'm going to be very supportive of it. Any other comments or questions of the board?
Mayor, I do have one other comment, and that is, yes, this all started in 2004 because of the Tannergate issue, because we wanted additional allocation out of Lake Hamilton. Entergy is not required to do that. Entergy told us that we couldn't have any further allocation until we found an alternative source of water. That doesn't mean that once we do that they will. It doesn't mean that they will continue on with the relationship that we've had up to this point. We have a very strong corporate partner in Entergy, and they've been a wonderful member of this community. But that's not a perpetual situation. So the idea that we can secure the access to additional 20 million gallons a day may only be to replace that. So to let this slip away doesn't seem to be prudent.
Very good. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Clark.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. Our final two action items are both ordinances, and at this time we'll consider ordinance number 1914. And first, I entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only.
So moved.
Got a motion and a second to suspend the rules, read by title only. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. Read by title, please.
Ordinance 01914, or ordinance waiving the requirements of competitive bidding for the purchase of real property located along Pineland Drive from PJMW Timberlands LLC and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt, have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Well, we got a bunch of motions in 1 second. We got Mr. Carnahan, city engineer.
Thank you, sir.
Will give the staff report. Welcome.
So staff is recommending tonight that you approve the purchase of 30 acres of land that joins our Lakeside Water Treatment Plant for $125,000 plus the closing costs. The primary access to the Lakeside Water Plant and our 3 lakes that the city owns there near that water plant, all Pineland Drive, actually goes through this 30 acres of land that's owned by PJMW Timberlands. They are interested in a sale.
of the property to the city. Oh, I wanted to say too that 30 acres of land is surrounded by a national park on the east, and then on the north and west by the city of Hot Springs property. So we're all around that 30 acres of land, timberland. So PJMW Timberland is willing to sell that property. We had it appraised and offered them the appraised value, and they accepted that appraised value as a purchase price. So we believe that it's very critical. We would hate for them to sell it to someone else. We think it's critical that the city own that and put the piece of the puzzle there in our land ownership, complete that, and give us ownership of the road that leads to our other property. So I hope you'll approve this motion tonight. Thank you.
Very good. Any questions of Mr. Carnahan? Director Garcia.
I agree with everything you said. I just had a question. In the appraisal, it had the breakdown between the market value of the timber and the land, but is the intent to retain the timber?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It is.
Thank you.
That was just the appraiser felt like that was the proper way to approach the appraisal. Good question, though. We don't want to cut down those beautiful trees.
That's what I was wanting to make sure.
Any other questions of Mr. Carnahan? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We had no members of the public that signed up to speak on this matter. Any discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. Our final action item of this evening is to consider Ordinance O-1915. I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules to read by title only.
So moved.
Director Clark, seconded by Director Weatherford. All those in favor of the motion to suspend the rules and read by title only signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. Please read by title.
Ordinance O-1915, an ordinance waiving the requirements of competitive bidding for credit card services, awarding a contract to Automated Merchant Systems, and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Director Clark, seconded by Director Garcia. And Mr. Randy Otler will provide us the staff report. Welcome.
Good evening. Utility Billing Services has just completed their computer conversion to the New World Tyler.net's computer system, and we use this as an opportunity to look at several of our processes, one of those being our credit card processors. And as a result of this conversion, we realized some functionality improvement. However, that was going to necessitate the purchase of some interfaces and the ongoing support and purchase of those interfaces throughout time. So we looked at our computer provider, New World Tyler Technologies, and they actually have a partner, Automated Merchant Systems, or referred to as AMS, that would not require any interfaces since they're partners with Tyler. It's just basically a plug-in process. AMS, or Automated Merchant Systems, is already being currently used by finance as well as other city departments. For that, AMS's cost is comparable, if not lower, than our current provider. In 2018, we spent approximately $130,000 in credit card processing fees. If the decision is made tonight to move to AMS, there is a little reduction in their fees compared to our current provider by approximately 10%, so which would drop that to around $117,000, given customer activity and this type of thing. Consequently, staff recommends waiving competitive bidding and approval of a contract with Automated Merchant Systems for credit card processing.
Very good. Any questions of Mr. Otler? Thank you.
Thank you.
We had no members of the public that have signed up to speak on this issue. Any discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Garcia.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. This concludes the action items for tonight's meeting. At this time, we'll entertain Board of Directors items for discussion. Anybody have Any item for discussion? Director Foley.
Mr. Mayor, in all of our celebration and excitement of being able to sign this contract tomorrow with the Army Corps of Engineers for the water at Lake DeGray, I want to make sure that both the city manager, Bill Burrow, and council, Brian Albright, are thanked for their focus on this project and their due diligence and their diligence to get it done. I mean, as he pointed out, you've been through a few city managers and four colonels, and it just took somebody with a focus that just didn't give up, and I want to express my appreciation to both of you.
Thank you.
That's from the board.
Well, if you would, send my regards. I will be at the Capitol tomorrow testifying on your behalf.
We'll be
Make sure nobody takes that
They'll
water
be
away
together
from
at the
us.
Capitol. I was really going to just throw them in Lake DeGray tomorrow in celebration with that cold water temp. I got a different topic to talk about, and it somewhat parallels or maybe somewhat related to cyberbullying. Within the last 2 weeks, there was a Facebook post from a entity that I guess does satire and whatnot, and they used me as their spokesperson. And I'm, to the degree that people want to take a shot at me as a political figure, I've got broad shoulders, I can handle it, and there's, water off a duck's back. But to pull in a certain community group into that little story, I felt was uncalled for. The good people of Mountain Pine deserve better. They didn't ask for any of that. That community, as all communities, have challenges and struggles, and certainly from an economic standpoint, from years ago when the sawmill plant from Weyerhaeuser, relocated, causes a community like that to have to, reinvent itself, and those things don't happen overnight. And for someone to take cheap shots at a community like that really speaks more of that entity than it does of that community which they're taking that cheap shot. So, to those good folks out in Mountain Pine, I apologize for that post, which was not of my doing, but of some entity who thought they were higher than the rest of us all combined. They need to really do some soul searching. But you are always in our hearts and prayers, and we're always interested in your well-being. We know that when the window manufacturing company relocated to your community, that was a great day for you, and it brought a ray of sunshine and hope. And we look forward to continued economic growth within that corridor of our county. And you are a vital part of our community, our greater Garland County community, and we wish you well. And if there's anything that City of Hot Springs can do to aid you, we're here to provide whatever assistance. So kudos to all the good people in Mountain Pine. Thank you. Any other comments?
That was good, man.
Yeah.
Kudos to you.
Director Davidson.
Yes, I sort of have an announcement for the good people of District 1, and I hope you're listening so we can have somebody consider it. But at this point, I need to let you know that April 23rd will be my last city board meeting. Years ago, my mother, before she passed away, she said, "All right, I want you to take care of it. You get East Texas, your brother gets West Texas. Handle it." Well, my brother's gone. He jumped out of too many perfectly good planes, and as a result had diabetes. But his nephew now has sold my grandfather's land in West Texas. My East Texas property is selling, and he's buying a second house and he wants me to live in it.
Hey.
Yeah, very nice. So, with that, and the reason I wanted to go ahead and say it tonight, so we have good people in Park Avenue that might consider, and I know you're going to have the cost of an election, and I apologize for that, but everything's all in the timing, and we're going to have to do this. And I do need boxes if anybody's got any. I've started packing already.
Go to the liquor store.
And so anyway, April 23rd will be my last meeting, and I'll say all my goodbyes then. But I want to thank you for your consideration, and I hope we have some good candidates in Park Avenue to take this position. I've really, really enjoyed it, and I am so very proud of what Park Avenue looks like today as compared to what it looked like when I first moved here. We are now the safest district. We are now number 1.
Okay.
Number 8's somewhere else out of the county.
That's wonderful. We're going to miss
Thank
you, though, really.
Thank you. I miss you too. But you
All
can't
right.
turn away a free house.
No, not a free one. I take that.
Well, that's kind of a shocker. So we got any other
And no, I
shocking
didn't
news?
know. Everybody thought that I knew about it.
We got a shoe to drop?
I didn't
This
know
is Terry
when.
Payne's last board meeting as well.
Oh, Terry Payne's last board meeting as well. So
Sure is. That'll be Terry's.
she's,
last.
I guess she's in the control booth.
Not my last.
No.
Right, you're returning for that one. Okay, well, Elaine,
Well,
what do you think?
Sir, I move that we adjourn this meeting for tonight.
We got a motion by Director Jones.
That's it.
We got a second?
Second.
We got 5 seconds. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Be safe going home. It's dark out there.
Yeah.